This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby. Breaking news, WABC.
Well, a car plows in Germany.
Yeah, a big Christmas market. And you know what they're saying, John? There might be as many as 60 to 80 people injured. And the latest is that it may be a terror attack. They're saying there's a chance that there were explosives in the vehicle. And let's not forget, in Germany, they had an attack similar to this 8 years ago, almost to the day, where somebody plowed into a market in Berlin. This is 2 hours from Berlin, and obviously it harkens, is it ISIS? Is it something else? And we're going to have a whole bunch of news on that, John, coming up with John Solomon, who's going to be joining us in just a few minutes for the latest on that. And
in the studio with us, we got Judge Richard Weinberg. We have Governor...
Governor Patterson.
Yes.
By the way,
and the New York GOP chairman.
Can I say one thing? A very well-dressed Governor Patterson. He has like the nicest suit on here.
Oh, thank you.
But
yes, very dapper.
But it's a red tie and it's black tie tonight.
Oh, you didn't tell him. You didn't tell him.
GOP chairman Ed Cox.
Always dapper. Always. He doesn't need a tie when you got this kind of quality here in the studio.
I'm shocked that the chairman is not wearing a tie.
He has one in his pocket. He just showed it. Look, it's a red one. See, and you are always looking dapper, Judge.
Always wearing a tie.
Always. And by the way, speaking of people working, Congress is working, John, right now.
What's going to happen? We're still in the same boat.
Yeah, we're still in the same boat. And what do you think? They're waiting a big vote. This would be the third vote on this spending bill. Last night, the one went down. They didn't have enough votes. And they're trying another bite at the apple, and it's going to happen at any minute.
The big question, can they get it done by tonight, or do they wait till
they
Sunday?
Want to go home.
No, they want to go home, but they could wait till Sunday night because no one gets paid over the weekend.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. They want to get home, and they're telling them. And also, you know, it was interesting last night, John. You and I were communicating in the wee hours of the morning, and President Biden rushed back. I was happy to hear he's still, around. And then the other was Kamala Harris rushes back because they obviously know this is on the line, and maybe there's going to be a vote tonight. Who knows? Let's see.
It's going to be exciting. Going down to the wire. Basically, this is just a Republican bill that you're talking about.
You know,
the Democrats are going to have a say on it, and you only have a couple hours to work that out. It's in trouble.
Why aren't they just waiting until January 3rd when they have the majority?
They should.
It's only 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
It's not like it's 3 months.
But
that would be
they got this.
Nobody's going to work the next 2 weeks in Washington anyway. They're never going to work anyway.
The legislature never wants to shut down the government. That's the problem. They have to shut it down
too sensible a suggestion.
The problem is the so-called Republican majority is illusory because you have a dissident group who will not vote for continuing resolutions. That's your problem. Or for lifting the debt cap.
Yeah, and one of the things, Judge Weinberg, that they're looking at doing, and there was word earlier today, we'll see if this is part of this vote, but it probably is that Speaker Johnson was separating it and saying, okay, let's do a clean continuing resolution, which is just to keep it going for a short period of time. So then Trump doesn't inherit a whole mess. And then they would do a separate one on funding disaster relief because the people in North Carolina need some help, obviously. And then the farmers. And then they would get to the debt ceiling later.
Next year.
They'll
do a debt ceiling next year.
And Ed's laughing because the question is, well, the Democrats wanted, as John was talking about, John, that picture you showed us yesterday said it all, the
1,500 pages worth of pork.
Well,
right.
That's why the Republicans are foolish for not voting down the bill last night, because what they're doing is they're empowering the Democratic majority who has a
they did vote down the bill.
Right.
It was the Republicans.
It was the Republicans. 38 Republicans voted it down. And the problem is, by doing that, they're empowering the Democrats.
Yes, and it's giving them fodder, especially they're thinking about what happened before.
And who gets the blame? Who gets the blame? Then the Republicans get the blame for shutting down the government. It's a beautiful play by the Democrats.
Well, that's why they need to keep pushing that and keep passing that message on. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And they need to keep saying, listen, we're ready to do a clean one. We're ready to do a solid one. And now we're putting it off on the Democrats.
The shocking thing this morning, the Wall Street Journal, 50 interviews they did on President Biden's condition 3 years ago. 50 different staff members.
They went back to April of 2021. There were reports.
50 different staff members.
That he wasn't capable of functioning. April 2021.
Yeah, that was shocking. And the Wall Street Journal was saying they talked to people who are still at the White House and also former. And to hear these people say that even as early as 2021, as you so eloquently said, Judge, to hear these people saying that they had to cancel meetings with world leaders and cancel meetings with other people. How can you be the leader of the free world?
No, it was really February 2020 in the Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primary when last time people got to see Biden up close. And guess what? They decided, hey, he's the age when we took the keys away from Granddad. And they saw that day. He came in 4th in Iowa and 5th in New Hampshire. I've never seen anyone get the nomination after doing that badly in that caucus.
Ed, that's because Obama sold it.
Yeah,
to try to stop
exactly.
Sanders.
He sold it in South Carolina. He fixed it in South Carolina.
Yeah, and then what's amazing is he has been so MIA on so many issues, this president of late. And that's why when we heard that he was rushing back last night, you should have heard social media was ablaze saying, what's going on? They weren't thinking it had anything to do with the government. What did you, Governor Patterson?
I have a question to the group of you. So we know what his condition was now. That's not in dispute. What do you think was the responsibility of the people who understood that it was happening? What do you think they should have done?
At what time? At what point in time, Governor?
At a point that they
when he's president, is he president already?
The real person who's responsible, to answer your question, Governor, is President Obama, who made him the nominee in New Hampshire, working with Clyburn.
Right, but Ed.
And he knew the condition.
No, I understand that. Oh, he knew the condition.
Sure, of course Obama did.
So
how could you not? You know what? Chris
All right,
Coons.
so let me ask this.
Chris Coons, Senator Chris Coons, and you know who he is, right?
I know him.
All right, so he came out. He's a very close ally of Biden's, right? He came out today and said he was fine. Everything was great. It wasn't until I saw him at the debate that I was stunned. And I find, come on. I don't think you need a magnifying glass to figure out what's going on there, Governor Patterson. Come on.
No, certainly not in my case.
But whoever dressed you today did a great job. Right? I want to go back to that one because that is for sure.
So now my question is, okay, Ed, now follow me here. So now it's the date you gave, April 21st.
No, February. February primaries.
Right. No, but
that's when the people.
Governor, you're saying when he's president.
Now he's in office.
Okay, now he's in office.
And you cited a date.
April 2021.
Okay,
right.
Good. All right. So now you found out. What do you do?
25th Amendment. 25th Amendment. That's the answer, Governor.
Yeah, but you know what? And what's disgraceful? You hit a great point here, Judge, because why were they not talking about that? And who knows? I can't wait for the real story to come out. I mean, we're hearing some of it from the Wall Street Journal, but you are internally and you are bound. You're there at the White House every day. You're seeing meetings canceled with lots of who's who. You're seeing on a bad day, you had to cancel all the meetings, according to the Wall Street Journal. And yet they don't even raise the 25th Amendment publicly. We know from privately, apparently, that conversation when he finally, moved out. But I can't wait for the real story to be told.
But you're talking about the senior staffers around him who kept Biden to themselves.
Yes.
That's right.
The junior.
That's right.
Everybody
never got
had
to see
to
him.
know. I mean, I saw him at the debate. I was like, are you kidding me? I saw him in Normandy, you guys. When I saw him in Normandy, I thought the 107-year-old veteran had more energy than he did.
Why do you think they hit him in the basement during the campaign?
Yes, now we know. Well, by the way, you guys, we have now John Solomon calling in with some breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
And joining us now is John Solomon, the founder of Just the News, the great investigative journalist. John Solomon, thank you so much for joining us. First, give us the very latest on everything that's happening with the government shutdown, potentially the vote that's hoping to happen at any moment.
Yeah, we're going to see the bill broken into 3 separate pieces of legislation so that each lawmaker can vote differently on the merits, and Democrats can join on some and not on others. Republicans come on others. So those 3 bills will take it. First will be a clean CR, is what they call a clean CR. That's a short-term spending bill that just keeps all the spending levels at the levels that they've been for the last year. So no reduction in spending, something that a lot of Americans have been clamoring from. Clean CR, first vote. Second vote will be $100 billion on disaster aid. There may be some amendments to that bill to bring the number down, saying there isn't $100 billion in bills yet, so why don't we put 20 or 30 billion out? If the numbers go up, we'll add to it, but don't allocate it now until we know if we need it. And then the third thing will be a 1-year extension, the Farm Bill, a bill that provides assistance to our farmers and keeps them prospering and keeping our food supply growing. Those are the 3 bills. They'll probably come in quick succession on the House floor. 2 or 3 or all may all pass. We'll see. And then after that, it goes to the Senate, and Chuck Schumer is singing from a different Christmas hymnal. He wants the old bill back. So we'll see whether the Democrats have the courage to shut down the government, because if the House passes these, the Senate will own the shutdown of the government.
You know, how much of the messaging is getting out there, John Solomon, to the point of, it's and we were just talking about it with John too, of like, okay, look, you look at that 1,500 pager, which they keep going back to, the first version, right, which has so many pet projects. How much do you think that messaging, and could they do a better job of getting the message out to the American public to say, look, we're trying to do the right thing by you. You just presented something that makes a lot of sense that they're about to vote on. And if you don't vote on it, guess what? This is what you wanted in the first one. Like, I mean, I think anybody's jaw would drop if they saw what was in that 1,500.
That wish list is absolutely reprehensible. It's DEI, it's COVID research again. It's awful. Everything they want, environmental.
Regulatory authorities that are exactly what liberals want. Yeah, listen, I don't know what went through Mike Johnson's head when that bill was put together, but it is certainly a better scenario.
Why did he accept it before Trump put his foot down?
Yeah, why did he accept that? Why did it even get to the point where it was a vote? Because Trump quickly said, no way.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's a nice guys finish last scenario. I think Mike Johnson's a nice guy, but speakers are not typically effective when they're nice. They need to be tough, and they need to be principled, and they need to read the American public and what was just said. And Mike Johnson has not been able to even deliver the promises that House Republicans made to get into office in 2023. Not a single spending cut. We are still spending money at the drunken levels of the Biden, Harris, and Pelosi regime. So he hasn't delivered that. And then of all the things to put in the bill, let's give members of Congress who are at 19% popularity and have run up a $26 trillion debt increase over the last 2 decades since their last pay raise. Let's give them another pay raise and reward them. There hasn't been any positive messaging out of the House. It's taken Donald Trump and Elon Musk to yank it back in some way. I think Donald Trump and Elon Musk changed the course of history. But I got to tell you what, there isn't a lot of confidence that Donald Trump has a Congress right now capable of keeping up with him when his big agenda starts passing in January. I think there's going to be some serious discussions of leadership changes over the Christmas break.
Wow. Ed Cox, what do you think in terms of like it's been fascinating because Trump and Musk definitely have had a big impact.
Yeah, they definitely had a big impact, but give credit to Johnson. He adjusted very quickly, and that impact could not be done by him alone. It had to be done by Trump.
You have to be fair to Mike Johnson.
That cleared the way for Johnson to do something that's very creative here. It's getting done.
But hopefully, right?
Give credit to Johnson for that.
John Solomon, you have to give credit to Speaker Johnson. He's dealing with a dissident group, a radical right group in his own caucus. 38 members voted against the second bill, which was a temperate, moderate bill, which they should have voted for. They were only empowering the Democrats. What say you?
Listen, I think there are 2 sides because you have the other side that won't give up its drunken spending. So the moderate side are the ones who larded up that bill, knowing that would make the conservative side go, not again. How many times are we going to keep doing this? So it starts with, here's how this goes. Well, let's do a clean CR. Oh, but we need a clean CR with some special aid for farmers. Okay, well, if you're going to help the farmers, you got to help the people in North Carolina. So let's come up with a number that nobody made up, $100 billion. No one even knows where that number came from. And then the Democrats say, well, if you're going to put all that in there, you got to put all our things. And Mike Johnson goes, okay, yes, yes, yes. And before you know it, a clean CR is actually a 60% increase in the current
spending
spending levels.
And they shot down the
broadcasters.
They shot down the AM broadcasters.
They did. Right. Something that would be helpful to everyday Americans.
94% of the American people.
It's just amazing, isn't it? There is such a disconnect between the elitists who run Washington and the everyday man and woman trying to get by in their car on the street, pay their gas bills. And by the way, you keep spending money this way, you're actually driving inflationary pressure back up.
Yeah, no, you're right. I got Patterson real quick.
John, I think that you really explained in the last couple of minutes what the real problem with government is. And it's everybody's really in it for themselves. Yeah. Each concession that they make becomes another concession that they have to make. It's like when you don't tell the truth, you have to tell even more lies to cover up the truth.
Cover up the other lies.
And I think that really what's happening is that the public has no trust in these people. And because there's no trust, if there was trust, somebody could say, look, let's just do it to get through here. 6 months later, we'll work it out. And it gets worked out. But that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Listen, right now, there are only two people in Washington that spend money, Democrats and Republicans. They're both spending. And
well said.
Governor, you hit it on the head. We have a generation of politicians that only think about themselves, and it's hard to make a change of a battleship this way until they start thinking about the people that elected them.
Let's just note there's no presidential leadership in this either.
That's true.
Yeah,
and
no,
if they wipe out,
right.
John, and if they wipe out AM radio, there'll be a new station called WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Very nice. He's always quick.
Hey, look at that.
He's always quick. John Solomon, thank you so much, John.
Merry Christmas. We don't talk, guys. I love all the work you do. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We love you, John. Thank you very much. And now we have joining with us, speaking of the government keeping people in the dark, they're certainly keeping people in the dark
By the way,
about
today
drones.
is the darkest day of the year.
Oh,
yes, it is.
Oh,
the
that's
darkest
right.
day of the year.
And also, by the way, it's the 5-year anniversary, isn't it, of Space Force,
and
right?
he's coming on later on, Brigadier General John
Tykert.
Dragon
Tykert. I can't wait.
We hear the space anthem.
Yes, and speaking of what's going on in the skies, joining us now is the mayor of Belleville, New Jersey, Mayor Michael Melham. Mayor, we're so happy to have you here because you guys, I know in your community, like a lot of other communities, are seeing these very suspicious drones. Still, no assurances from the, federal government as to exactly what they are. They say, trust us, but don't say what. What is the latest? Because you talked about this nuclear, like a ship with nuclear materials. Fill us in on what you've heard.
Thank you for having me. Most importantly, thank you for pronouncing Belleville correctly.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So this has been going on for 4 weeks here in New Jersey. We've been under siege by aerial phenomenon, drones flying just over our houses. And these are not your personal drones. These are not even the commercial drones. These are 6-foot drones that look like small cars that are hovering over our houses. And we keep appealing to our state government that's useless and our federal government that's inept for answers. Unfortunately, our governor, who had 200 press conferences for COVID, is barely speaking about this topic. And our federal government is even more inept. They had a meeting with mayors on Monday. It was a Office of White House Intergovernmental Affairs. 500 mayors were invited. And for 45 minutes, we got nothing but the runaround. Nothing to see here. You guys are seeing things. You guys are seeing manned aircraft. We have no reports of anything abnormal, no anomalies. They keep telling us that. Yet the very next day, they had actually the House Intelligence Committee had a classified briefing that lasted more than 3 hours. So what did they talk about for 3 hours the day after when they just told us the day before that there's nothing to see here? We're getting very frustrated, and we really need some answers.
Mr. Mayor, in fact, I remember when some of the members of Congress came out of that briefing, they said, we still don't have any. It didn't seem like they even gave them. They came and gave them sort of a runaround, and they still had a lot of unanswered questions, too, which is not obviously comforting to the American public. What could it be? Like, walk us through, because you've talked about some of the scenarios of things you've heard. What have you heard? And explain maybe this missing material. And also, you were one of the first people, and everybody picked it up around the country, and you were spot on about this bulletin saying, be careful if there's a down drone, make sure a bomb squad comes out and someone in a hazmat suit. That's concerning.
Yeah, so thank you. I mean, I did. I was the one that really broke that news on the hazmat. So they had asked us, "Hey, have you had any guidance from the state?" And I said, "Sure, we've gotten guidance from the state. Our fire department needs to wear hazmat suits if they encounter a down drone. And by the way, our police department is told to immediately call the bomb squad if there's a down drone." So that was the first guidance that we had, and everybody started calling me a conspiracy theorist and everything else. And then they said to me, "Well, what could be going on?" So let me just tell you this: that I know a lot of facts. We got briefed at the state about a week and a half ago. While they didn't say all that much, I know all the facts that the state knows. And what they told us is that drones are hovering over our critical infrastructure. They also told us, which is not really being reported, by the way, that they're not emitting any radio frequency at all, which is kind of crazy when you think about that. We are also told that drones are flying in a grid-like pattern. And I've witnessed them here in Belleville where they come out nightly, the same exact spot, they get in their spot, and then they start circling around. They're flying in formation. It's a grid-like pattern. So somebody said to me, what might that be? I said, well, listen, you put a drone up in the sky for 5 minutes, take some pictures, you're done. 5 minutes, you take some mapping, and you're done. The fact that they're moving around in a grid-like fashion means to me that they're looking for something. And then they said, well, what might that be? And I speculated. I said, well, I think they're either looking or, as we say, sniffing for something. Potentially, our federal government is aware of a threat, and because of that threat, they've deployed drones. Listen, I lived through the Bush-era threat level warnings. Different color codes meant different things, and at yellow you did X, and at orange you did Y. You know, it was all different things. So potentially we're aware of a specific threat, and we now have assets that we could put in the sky to look and watch over our infrastructure and also have the ability to seek something out. I then speculated that, hey, we're in northern New Jersey. Trump has been a target for assassination. We've seen that multiple times.
Well,
He's even been a target.
He didn't go to Bedminster.
Right, he didn't go to Bedminster.
He has not gone to Bedminster. If you listen to what Trump said, he said our federal government knows, our president knows, and he actually said, I'm not coming to New Jersey this weekend. So when you factor all that in, what could they be looking for? I said, well, potentially there's something that came in over Port Newark. Maybe it's a suitcase nuke. Maybe it's a dirty bomb. Maybe it's radioactive material. Then everybody went crazy because I said, well, listen, the federal government on a .gov website, by the way, announced missing radioactive material in New Jersey in early December. And everybody called me a conspiracy theorist until they went and found it on that website. And
there's still 3 suitcase bombs missing from like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's some report of it like different. I mean, you're right.
There was a report of one possibly coming down from Canada.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the problem is we're not getting a straight story.
The report I got, and I don't know if it's correct or incorrect, was it's a Navy contract aviation deal, and the Navy or the U.S. Navy is running it, looking for that radiation in New Jersey and the radiation in Long Island.
Yeah, and by the way, John always gets great intelligence, Mr. Mayor.
I mean, listen, when the government tells you it's not us, usually it's us. They like to use plausible deniability. They like to say, well, it's not. And they were very specific. And that's the stuff you got to listen for. They were very specific with us. It is not DOD. It is not Homeland Security. However, they have plausible deniability 15, 20 years from now, and we find out it was technically us. Oh, well, that was a defense contractor, or that was a private sector contractor. When they get specific, that's always cause for concern. They came out of this House, and this is something that's not being talked about. They came out of that House Intelligence Committee basically towing the party line. Nothing to see here. Yet, our Foreign Affairs chair, he came out and said, I think it's a China drone. Yet, another congressperson from New Jersey, actually, came out and said it's an Iranian mothership off the coast. Listen, they're calling me a conspiracy theorist for speculating, but this is what our highest-ranking members of Congress are saying. One part says nothing to see here. Another guy says it's China. Another guy says it's Iran. We can't get a straight story. The only thing that's crazier than this is the fact that our federal government didn't have a cover story in place.
Yeah, you got to keep us posted, Mr. Mayor. This obviously is not the last word on this. And as you hear things, please come back on again. You're terrific. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And, John, we got to take a break. We have Larry Kudlow after the break.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back, and all I can say, thank God it's Friday, but Larry has to work on Saturdays, too. And I do, too, and Sundays. Who knows? Larry, nobody understands the numbers in this economy. We're back to where we were last Friday. The market bounced back a little bit. You give us your analysis.
Well, there's a lot cooking this week. I mean, it was a bad week for stocks. Yes, there was a little better day today, but stocks down again 2% across the board for the week. I mean, my take on the stock market is it's not an interest rate thing, okay? I'm going to get to the Fed and their meeting this week, which made no sense at all. But I think anytime the market believes that the tax cuts are not coming, the Trump tax cuts or the deregulation, or the Doge brothers spending cuts. Anytime the market worries about that, it tends to sell off. And that's one reason why it fell for 10 straight days. And that matter has not yet been resolved. I mean, you've seen how chaotic and crazy this continuing resolution battle is. They got a new so-called clean bill. It's not a clean bill. It's a cleaner bill. Still got $120 billion in extra spending. But it does take out most of the bells and whistles. There'll be a vote on that tonight, according to Speaker Johnson, and they have scheduled a debt ceiling increase by the middle of March for $1.5 trillion, and maybe spending cuts later in the year for a couple of trillion. But it's all up in the air. But my point is, you see how difficult it is to get anything through the House. So stop thinking about multiple reconciliation bills next year. You're not going to get that. You're going to have you need one big, fat, beautiful reconciliation bill, to coin a phrase from a certain world leader. One big, fat reconciliation bill. And inside that bill is where your tax cuts are going to be, and your border closing, and your deregulation, and your drill, baby, drill. Okay, and it's very important that the Republicans reward their blue-collar, working-class voters who gave them a landslide or almost a landslide, put more money in their pockets, put more money in their wallets. So the stock market wants to see it because there's a lower corporate tax rate in there, 15% that would help profits. So, there's a lot of confusion about this, and it's affecting the market. And the big rally we had post-November has kind of been broken up. Is this CR tonight going to pass? I don't know. They're suspending the rules. As I say, there's a new cleaner bill. They still need a 2/3 majority in the House. Can they get it? I don't know. I mean, I honestly do not know if they can get it. We'll see. If the government shuts down tomorrow, it's not the worst thing in the world. The thing that bothers me most about government shutdown is
does anybody go to work in the next 2 weeks anyway in Washington?
Well, they don't work anyway, John. Even
yes,
when they
that's what I meant.
I mean, let's get serious. Most of them stay home and don't come to work, and that's a problem that has to be dealt with. But I don't want to give Senator Schumer the whip hand. You've got a January 6th date coming up where the election votes, the electoral college votes, have to be certified. I would greatly prefer it not be under his aegis. And I also don't want the January 25th inauguration to come under Schumer's aegis. So that's what bothers me. The economics don't bother me at all. Social Security checks go out, and the Defense Department will continue. So it doesn't bother me. But, again, the lesson here is be simple. Simplify. Stop talking about multiple bills next year. You need one big, fat bill. Start as soon as you can in January. Get it done by the spring. Put more money in people's wallets. Let the stock market roar as it will once it sees this thing going through. That's my take on it.
Larry, Plan B.
Yeah.
Trump endorsed it. It was only 116 pages. Why did those 34 Republicans turn it down?
Well, one of the key reasons there is, and this is very unfortunate, there are no spending cuts. There's no pay goes. There's no pay fors, okay? I mean, you go back a couple of years, Kevin McCarthy then Speaker, made a deal with Joe Biden, who was then president, or somebody was president. I guess he's AWOL. But let's assume there was a Democratic president and he made a deal. There were so-called pay-fors. So anything you spend beyond the baseline, you got to pay for it. And the reason that 35 Republican House members rebelled last night against the second so-called cleaner bill was there no pay-fors. Now, this thing today is a handshake, okay? Now, I don't want to be obtuse, but there's a handshake agreement with the House member, Congressman Chip Roy from Texas, and a couple other people that said we will have $2.5 trillion in spending cuts over the course of this coming year, and then the debt ceiling will be raised in March. You know, is that real? Can they actually cash that check? I don't know. Color me highly skeptical. But, I mean, I had Rand Paul on the show. He's well known to you. You know, Rand makes a point. There's got to be some spending discipline. Yes, tax cuts are crucial for growth. But, you know, you want to curb inflation and you want to, stop the government from having a higher interest expense than defense spending. We really should think about if you want to spend more someplace, then you got to cut more someplace else. They've kind of lost that. And Republicans aren't really any better than Democrats right now. So
I think the Democrats are better. There's more loyalty in the Democratic Party than there is in the Republican Party. Governor Patterson, you wanted to say something.
Loyalty for socialism is not necessarily a virtue, but
well, then maybe they follow Putin's rules. If you're not loyal, you fall out of the fifth floor window,
right? Or a scooter, right, blows up.
Larry, if Congress had taken your advice and rolled all of those opportunities up into one big bill, do you think this Congress would have passed it?
Not this Congress, but the next Congress. In other words, the Democratic Senate would never have done it. But I'm talking about, as of January 3rd, the Republicans take over the Senate.
Very good. And that's actually what I was leading to, is that's the question that John has asked almost every guest this week.
What's the question?
About why didn't they just wait and come back on January 3rd and start doing it then?
Well, the only trouble with that is that the government shutdown, the funding runs out at midnight tonight. That's why they can't wait. Now, if you're talking about the reconciliation bills, the big fiscal packages for next year, yeah. I mean, but again, I'm arguing that should be rolled into one bill. Don't think you're going to get 2 or 3 bills. Just get one bill. It's going to be hard enough to do that.
Yeah, no.
Now they got tripped up. They got tripped up by the funding problem, where the existing continuing resolution, where they've been operating under now for the past, 18 months. That runs out tonight. That's the issue.
Wow.
So they're going to try to deal with that.
Larry, I'll be listening to you tomorrow. 10 o'clock.
Keep us posted. Wow.
10 o'clock to 1 o'clock on WABC worldwide and the solar system. If you play your cards right. And I'll be listening to your 3-hour show tomorrow.
Wow. And I'll be on tonight with all this, wherever it goes. Wow.
Yeah, we're all working.
We are.
Just working.
I'm working every day next week.
Yeah, Merry Christmas,
from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 in the morning.
Even on Christmas Day.
Even on Christmas Day.
And we'll be here. We'll all be here next week, too. Yes, you'll have good company.
Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And how about the hot news?
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And, of course, everybody's waiting to see what this vote is on potentially avoiding a government shutdown on the spending bill. We'll keep you posted on that. And also, at least 2 people are dead and 68 are injured after a suspected attack at a crowded Christmas market in Germany. Reports say there was an explosive device in the car, and it may be a terror attack. And after the break, we'll talk to Ron Vitello, former border chief. Some big stuff happening tied to the border.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Well, there's a lot about gangs from Venezuela taking over America. Now they're in 16 states. There's a big raid, in fact, in New York, where they found close to 20 gang members in New York. Frightening situation. Joining us now to talk about this and also what's happening. Will these other countries take the migrants that Tom Homan plans to deport and President Trump or not? Venezuela saying no, no, no. Joining us now to talk about all of this is Ron Vitello, former border chief and also former acting ICE director. Ron, first of all, about the fact that all these Venezuelan gang members found in New York and by the way, many back at that Aurora, Colorado complex too.
Yeah, hats off to the front line there in New York that put these people behind bars and hopefully after January 20th there'll be an end game for these folks that lead them on a path to be removed from the country and deported. So I'm glad law enforcement has dug into this. There's obviously been an orientation change, right? There's a Trump effect going on in a number of places in the world, including New York City, the mayor's office, and the police officers in the front line down there, probably ICE and others, they know what the intention is going to be in a couple of weeks, and they're acting accordingly. So good for them.
You know, Ron Vitello, former border chief, the president of Mexico put out a little bit ago that she's ready to accept migrants that are deported by President Trump, but Judge Weinberg, we were talking about Venezuela earlier.
Yeah,
because
Ron,
they're saying
what
something
I'm very
else.
concerned about is Venezuela is not going to cooperate. They're not going to take back these gangsters. And you can only hold them, as you know, for 6 months. Then you're forced to release them. How does the Trump administration deal with that issue?
Well, I think we have leverage with Venezuela. The feckless policies of the Biden administration allowed them to put their oil on the international market to keep prices down. And so now we have that leverage of whether we want to keep their oil in the international market. If you want to do business with the United States, maybe we don't want you to buy oil reserves from Venezuela. So there's leverage there, both on the diplomatic side and in the economic side. Trump has already talked about tariffs as a tool to make people do things they might not otherwise do because it means something to their economy. And so I think there's a couple of ways to skin this cat. Venezuela may say this now, but they may change their mind if they're going to a tariff escalation. There's also other ways to do this. The safe third country, we could put a camp up somewhere that would take it. You think about some place like Panama, perhaps Guantanamo Bay or a place like that, which the U.S. has good control and good partners that will hold people until we work the complete deal with Venezuela. But I think Trump definitely has the upper hand in this discussion. And obviously, the American people are behind removing these gangsters from our communities.
All right. Well, you keep us posted, too. It's so great to have you here, Ron Vitello. We always appreciate it. And boy, is this going to be an enormous topic, especially day one with President Trump. He said he's going to take care of this and start at day one. And Tom Homan, who you and I both know, he's not messing around, Ron. That is for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you. Ron, if we don't talk to you, have a great Christmas. It's wonderful to have you here.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. And joining us now, you guys, Dr. Mark Siegel is here on the line. Dr. Siegel, first off, you want to talk about bird flu. It seems like there's so many things going on, but tell us how big of a concern this is.
Well, I want to talk about bird flu because you want me to talk about it, but I'm not. No, I always do what you want because you're actually very attuned to medical issues.
Well, by the way, that's why I love you. I love when a guy says, I'll do whatever you want. That's the right answer. That's the right answer. No matter whatever day, dinner, dessert. Absolutely perfect. So Dr. Siegel, let me then switch gears then, because what I'd love to talk about is the psychology. You were fabulous. I was watching you on Fox a little bit talking about the psychology about these people, that are attracted to Luigi Mangione. This is the guy, the United Healthcare, CEO who was gunned down, the suspect in the case brought back to New York. And it was incredible yesterday to see all these people, almost like glorifying him. And you could see it's really a concern for security reasons too. Talk about just, from a medical standpoint, what is going on and how big of an issue is this? And also, just how concerning, I think, and troubling for law enforcement.
just so well said by you. And I was thinking, as you just said it, the issue of anonymity. Because of social media and the way this country has gone and the fractured society, dissociation, people hide behind anonymity, and they actually try to justify taking action on behalf of a cause, which ironically, in this case, the Democrats brought this on us, right? So Democratic senators like Elizabeth Warren are talking about the relationship of between this murder and our broken healthcare system. Excuse me, Senator Warren, but first of all, the HMO piece of this started under Hillary Care, and then you had Obamacare. So what are we talking about? United Healthcare has profited off of all of this, but this doesn't mean that the CEO of the company is supposed to be murdered or anything like that. You know, he's a human being. He's working for a living, and maybe a huge living, but in a sector that he didn't create. The Democrats created it. So the irony there is profound. And by the way, because of how well you presented that, it occurs to me it has a reverberation with the assassination attempt on President Trump. I mean, people that were angry at him, when he was running for president, and he's supposed to be shot at, it's really disturbing to me from a mental health point of view that anybody would make the connection between an attempt to take somebody's life and whatever their ideology is at the moment.
How big also, within the healthcare industry, it's so scary, Dr. Siegel, to see these posters that are around town and you see them like crossing out like one done. I mean, this is scary stuff. How big of a concern is it in the healthcare industry, and how much more security also around a lot of the people, sadly, for just doing their job?
And I think that they're going to need a lot more security, and I think there's a lot of hatred that's being misplaced. And I think, it's unrelated to the second truth here, which is patients can't see doctors, doctors not getting reimbursed, reimbursement is shrinking. The reason I brought up Hillary Care is that started the point, and John Catsimatidis is going to love this as one of the most successful businessmen in our country's history, that doctors stopped being paid for delivering the services.
When did I surpass Elon Musk?
Yeah, when did he surpass
just
Elon?
now. Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. Wait, where's the breaking news sounder? It's Friday before Christmas.
Breaking news, WABC.
Hey, can you say that again, Dr. Siegel?
I said, short of Elon Musk.
Hey, if Elon is only 495 billion ahead of me.
That's right. But who's counting?
Pretty damn good. And you know what I love about John is that he ranges into different sectors. He's not just amazing in oil or amazing in food. He's also amazing with this radio station and with media. So, Elon Musk,
compliments will get you everywhere.
Absolutely. Elon doesn't own a radio network. I mean, you're right.
And he couldn't get his rocket to the space station. And he couldn't get his rocket to the space station fast enough. Speaking of other medical stories, these astronauts that
They're
are
still
up
stuck.
No, he wants to leave him up there as a symbol of where Boeing failed.
It's February.
February,
they're supposed to be able to come down.
Yeah,
they're
hopefully,
in bad
right?
shape. I mean, look, they're celebrating Christmas, but they're losing weight, and it's very psychologically difficult and for their bones because they're basically in free fall. Even though there's gravity up on that space station, 85% gravity, it's moving, so it's not like you have solid ground up there. So they're living in free fall, and it's very bad for the body, bad for the heart, bad for the bones, and bad psychologically. But they're celebrating Christmas, and they're heroes.
Yeah, they definitely are heroes. Well, thank you very much. And I agree with you on the John Musk stuff there, Dr. Siegel. I think John should be first, though. So I'm going to play it back because I think originally you said he was better than Musk, right?
Well, he is, but then, no, he is. John is my number one. John is number one at the top here. Musk, is in a different sector.
That's a good answer. Spoken like a good doctor. Dr. Siegel, we love you. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. So great to have you with us.
Great to be with you.
Thank you. We love you. Thank you. That was a good one, John. Good breaking news there.
Dr. Siegel, we're lighting the menorah on December 30th. Remember. Okay, what do we have now?
And now we have a break, and then we have a dragon. We have General John Teichert.
Oh, it's the 5th anniversary of Space Force.
I can't wait to ask him about the drones. And remember that big stuff that the mayor was just telling us? I can't wait to ask him what he thinks of that.
The purpose of Space Force is not only to protect us from the Martians, is to protect our satellites, our GPSs, our communication satellites.
So there's a lot to cover. I can't wait.
From other countries.
Yeah,
Yes,
from other countries.
yeah.
And also, I can't
Or
wait to
other
ask him.
planets.
And the latest on this terrible attack in Germany, too. Lots of stuff coming up.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Reaching into space, there's no limit to our sky. Standing guard both night and day. We're the Space Force from on high.
That is the Space Force hymn.
I don't think I ever heard that.
I was waiting
this
around
the
to hear
first?
that. I wanted to hear that one.
That was a good one.
That's the first time I've heard it.
Yeah,
You've heard the Marine hymn? This
Sure.
is the Space Force hymn.
I love it. And joining us now is one of the heads there of Space Force. He was there for a long time, an accomplished, obviously, former Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the Air Force, and
No,
also
he was,
there
a Brigadier General.
Brigadier General John Dragon Tykert. First of all, explain what it means now, too, with everything going on with all the drones, you think, General Tykert, because we just had a guy on earlier, one of the mayors, who had a lot of really important information about what's going over in New Jersey. What do you think is going on in the skies? You're an expert.
John and Rita, I appreciate that. And like you said, we are celebrating the 5th birthday today of the United States Space Force. Thanks for playing that hymn. Their motto is Semper Supra, which means always above. Now, clearly there are some other things that are above us these days, and we're not quite sure what's going on with these drones.
That are not so supra.
No, well, they are above those drones for sure, and they're helping pinpoint where these things are coming from and where they're going to. But it continues to be embarrassing. It's a textbook example of bad leadership, where a leader or a government loses the trust of its people when they don't communicate or demonstrate competence or credibility. And that's what's been going on for the last 2 weeks. And the result is that now not only do we not know what is going on that should be a concern of national security, but there's a lot of other activity up there as well because people are in a frenzy because the government is not doing their job.
So what do you think it is, General Tykert, as someone who's sort of an expert, we've heard these things that it could even be, our guys up there that are looking for something, nuclear material even, or something. There's a lot of stuff going around. What do you think it could be? What's sort of your inclination?
Right now, because of all the frenzy and panic, the majority of things that people are seeing up there are just normal air traffic activity. But I don't think that the root of the concern issue here are friendly systems, because when you have a classified operation, you have extensive pre-planned public affairs guidance where you would roll out a description of what's going on. And right now, because of the bumbling response of the federal government, there's no way that this was pre-planned or thought of. I do think that some of the original concern are potentially foreign actors that are probing our defenses, especially around important national security sites. But because the federal government has been so incompetent, we can't say that for sure. And that's why there's all these other theories going on and all this concern about other normal air traffic that's in the mix.
You said originally, like probing. What do you mean by that? Like we've heard, China thrown out there. We've heard Iran thrown out there. What are you hearing, or what could be, at least even in that initial phase?
I think that they would love to see how we respond to masses of aerial activity, drones or otherwise. And the fact that we have been so incompetent in the last 2 weeks actually makes it more likely that they are enticed to do something actively against the United States, because they've already seen our incapability in responding to these simple drone probing activities, that if it was a full-scale attack, I am concerned that the federal government under President Biden would not be able to properly respond.
Yeah, there's just this story out there that came out about him being really sort of MIA and out of it. And I think you hit it on the head, General Tykert, that there's this feeling of like nobody's in command. Ed Cox, your thoughts?
I was wondering, speaking about people in command, Elon Musk just put up his 7,000th launch of satellites. He owns 2/3 of all satellites out in space. What's that impact? How's that impact our defense posture, the fact that they're privately owned?
Ed, that is so beneficial to us because right now NASA is struggling Boeing is struggling. That if we didn't have an entrepreneur that is pushing the envelope and succeeding like Elon Musk, then we wouldn't be able to get our systems up there that the Space Force uses to defend our assets and put the adversary's assets at risk. And frankly, we should look at ourselves in the mirror and be very fortunate that we have someone like Elon Musk instead of the old archaic systems that we've used up to this point that are now just falling apart.
It must be very tough to destroy 7,000 satellites up there if, in fact, that are being used for communications that can be used by our armed forces being used by Ukrainian forces now for communications. And how would the Chinese be able to destroy all of those?
Ed, it's a huge benefit. It used to be our architecture in space that we had a few big, expensive systems and we relied on those. But those big, expensive systems are big, juicy targets. And now because we have a resilience in redundancy, it has given us an ability to have an assured access and capability in space that those few big, juicy, expensive targets wouldn't allow us with a determined adversary in the mix like China.
Now, I understand the Chinese are coming out with a similar system that Musk has, and they're going to be putting out thousands and thousands of satellites out there, too.
So that's going to be something that the Space Force has to deal with, that the biggest responsibility or mission set for the Space Force is to maintain space superiority, which means that we can use space for friendly purposes without risk because we can defend ourselves and we can put an adversary at risk. Well, if the Chinese or others have 7,000 satellites, then now it makes it more difficult for us to have to deal with those in space superiority. But right now we do have a head start because of Musk and others, and the Space Force is doing a great job at maintaining space superiority now that they are 5 years old, and they're going to keep doing it for the next 5 years and beyond.
It sounds great.
Great. Well, General Teicher, thank you so much for giving us some important background here. You're always terrific. And if we don't talk with you, have a great Christmas.
Now, you guys have a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas, and I love being on your show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let's go to some breaking news.
Breaking news, WABC.
We are waiting on the final tally, but word is from Capitol Hill that the House of Representatives appears to have the votes to avoid a shutdown. It appears that the interim spending bill is going to pass. Again, some people passed over, but they're coming back to them. But it looks like it will pass, and we'll try to get the details. It looks like it is something that's going to at least be an interim one. The question is how interim, but maybe it's a short-term one, then it tees it up, and then President Trump, and it can be revisited when he gets in to the White House and talk with folks on Capitol Hill and get something a little more specific as to what he wants.
This evening it puts it to the Senate. Exactly, the Democrats in the Senate.
Exactly.
Do they want to shut down the government or not?
And the president, too, still has to also sign it, too, as well, guys, too.
Right.
So if he's aware of that.
Yeah, someone will make him sign it.
If Dr. Jill will allow him to sign it, right? We'll have to find out on that. So we'll keep everybody posted. And, of course, we'll have the latest here on WABC. I'll be with you guys later tonight. So as these details come in.
I'll be listening to you at 10 o'clock tonight.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. It should be great. And John, what do we also... by the way, John has the best Christmas tie on, you guys. Look at that. I just noticed that. Nice. Look at that.
Margot gave it my early Christmas present.
Oh, my God. Margot was
great time for radio.
Margot. Great time for good choice, Margot. Good choice.
And what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
God bless America.